You're now watching Wayback Wednesday, sponsored by Davenport Auto Park, the ride of your life. And also sponsored by Flores Glass, serving the area since 1977 with residential and commercial work.
Friends, and welcome to another episode of Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcock. So glad you could join us tonight. I want to first of all thank all you who called and texted and sent me well wishes. Last week was a replay, of course. I was battling COVID, and I used battling in a very loose term. It was a very mild case, thank goodness. Bit of a headache, sniffling nose. Had I not went and got tested, I would have probably thought I had a cold, and that would have been the extent of it. But anyway, I did have COVID for the second time, so you can get it twice, by the way. But I got a clean bill of health this week, so I'm back with you tonight and glad to be here. You know, a week before last, the last show I actually did, we talked a little bit about a gardener's watch shop down on Washington Street. Maybe you remember that. And I'd kind of put out a question to the audience if anyone remembered anything about Gardener's Watch Shop, if you had any thoughts about it, any memories about the man or the business. And I heard from some of you, and I actually put a post on Facebook, and as many of you know about the Wayback Rocky Mount section on Facebook. It's a great place to go and post a question if you're looking for information. And so I did. I went and posted basically a general term, said, hey, does anyone remember anything about Gardener's Watch Shop? And I even posted the same advertisement that I showed here on the show a couple of weeks ago. And so very quickly I got a response back, and then a couple of responses, and so things kind of snowballed. I ended up exchanging a couple of really nice messages with Mr. Gardner's daughter and his grandson. And so we're going to show you some pictures tonight of Mr. Gardner and talk a little bit about the man, and I'm going to read a little bit to you. Some of the things his daughter said about him reminded me a lot of my own father, frankly. Apparently he was a well-admired, well-respected, and well-liked man, and a very dedicated craftsman to his trade. You know, it's hard to imagine and think about a profession such as a watchmaker or a watch repairman now in this day and age when everything is a throwaway. I mean, you know, hardly anybody fixes anything. If it breaks, you throw it away and go buy a new one. But back, you know, the turn of the century and even into the early 1900s of this century, we're in 2000s now. So anyway, even as late as the 1950s and 60s, watchmaking, watch repair, clock making was still a thriving business. And you know, Rocky Mount had several over the years, and certainly Mr. Gardner was just one of many. But like I said, I've got some pictures, and the first one I want to show you tonight is an advertisement that I found from 1964. And it's actually when Mr. Gardner came to Rocky Mount. He came to Rocky Mount to go to work for an existing jeweler here in town, jewelry store. And many of you may remember Gableman's Jewelers down on Main Street. But anyway, this first ad, if you go ahead and put this first picture up as an ad, and it's from Gableman's Jewelers, and I read a little bit here. It says, it takes a watch expert to make sure you're getting quality and value. We know the lure of prices may be hard to resist, but we also know that cheap watches are costliest in the long run. If you want good value and a dependable, accurate timepiece that will give years of faithful service that you will give or wear with pride, we suggest that you consult us before you buy a watch. As watch experts, our advice and professional counsel is always available, and of course we offer the largest selection of quality watches. Come in soon. And as you see there, they're advertising Boulevard watches. They show three different models. The Miss America on the left there sold for $35.95. The one in the middle, the Midnight Clipper, sold for $59.95. And the one on the right, the Leading Lady, sold for $59.95 also. And at the very bottom of the ad, you see Mr. Cecil Gardner is now associated with Gableman Jewelers. With 29 years of experience, Mr. Gardner will surely accommodate your every watch need. So Cecil Gardner, and notice by the way too, the spelling of the name. When I first started trying to find anything about Mr. Gardner, all I had to go on was an ad that appeared in the Rocky Mount High Knocker, from 1970, I think it was. And it spelled his name, Gardner, without the I, Gardner. And as you well know, there's a lot of Gardners that spell the name that way around Rocky Mount. And so I just assumed at that time that he was one of the Gardners from Rocky Mount. As it turns out, his actual spelling included the I, Gardiner. And in fact, he was not related to any of the Gardner families around Rocky Mount. So this was the first thing I came to realize, was that his name was actually spelled differently than I had thought it was. And Lee, if you would, let's go ahead and put up the second picture here. This is actually another ad wherein you can see he spelled his name here. It was spelled correctly. And I think a lot of times, because he placed ads in the Rocky Mount Telegram and the Rocky Mount Senior High Knocker, there was ads in the city directories. And so I think sometimes the name was just misspelled and he just did never correct it. And so, but this was the correct spelling, and this ad appeared in 1968. And I believe this was in the Rocky Mount Telegram here. Also unusual, offering 24-hour service, which was kind of something I didn't expect to see from a watchmaker or a watch repair person. But who knows, he may have gotten a call at 3 a.m., an emergency, had to get a watch fix, and there was your man. You'll notice too here, the address in 1968 was 135 South Main Street, and next door to Edinger's. So anyway, he had a shop there. After he left, he'd worked for Gayman's for a few years. In 1964, he was at Gayman's, and then in 1968, he had opened his own shop over on Main Street, next to the Edinger store over there. So I mentioned that I had spoken with his daughter via Facebook, and I asked her to just give me some information about her father, about his business, anything she could remember. And she sent me back a really nice message on Facebook, and I'm going to read a little of this to you here. She said, so Daddy was born October 1914 in Wayne County to James Henry and Rosa Thompson Gardner. He was one of 17 children who all helped work Grandpa Gardner's farm. His mother died of complications from diabetes when he was 16 years old. After graduating from high school, Daddy went to Wayne Technical School to learn the art of watch and clock making. And you know, it didn't dawn on me until I read this passage that he was born in 1914, so by the time he would have got out of high school at age, let's say 17 or 18, he would have been in his early 20s. I mean, he would have been 17 or 18, and it would have been, 1920s, 1930 or somewhere along in there. And Wayne Technical School then in Goldsboro offered apparently a watchmaking, a watch repair class, and so he took that class. And she goes on to say he worked at a series of jewelry stores as the jeweler watchmaker, or jeweler/watchmaker. He met my mother in Goldsboro when he was 28 and she was 18. He was living with his sister and her husband in an upstairs apartment over a family of parents and 4 daughters, one of whom was my mother. They got married and proceeded to move around the southern East Coast, going from jewelry shop to jewelry shop where his abilities were in high demand. There were no battery-operated watches or clocks back then. They had real movements that required regular cleaning and repair to keep them going. I don't know how many times my parents and older siblings moved before I was born in 1955, but we moved to 7 cities in Virginia and North Carolina from the time I was born. We also moved to 6 different houses in Rocky Mount. Daddy came here to work at Gayman's Jewelers on Main Street. Then he opened his first shop on Main Street. He then moved into the little building on Washington Street. My younger sister and I grew up knowing all about the business, knowing all the business owners downtown, such as Thomas's Cafe, Jack and Francis Restaurant. By the way, I'm sure some of you may have heard Buzzy Redding passed away this past week. I'm sad to say that, sad to hear that, but he did. Anyway, she goes on to talk about Davis Brothers Hardware. And then she says, when Timex watches became popular, Daddy's business slowed down greatly. He made a little watch repair shop in our garage and worked at Rocky Mount Mills for a while. He had a heart attack on July 12, 1982, but didn't go to the hospital because he knew it would be expensive, even after Medicare paid their part. He ended up having another the next day, and Mom and my sister convinced him to go to the hospital. He was in ICU and had a 3rd heart attack late on the 14th. They tried pacemakers and defibrillation, but nothing worked. He died July 15th, 1982. She goes on to say, Daddy loved people. He didn't make a decent living in his later years because he refused to charge people the high rates other watchmakers were charging. He was an honest, good-hearted man, and most people who knew him loved him. You know, I couldn't help but think about this man who had spent years in his chosen profession, was obviously very talented, very skilled, in fact. If you ever had a watch apart, you know, I couldn't help but think about the old Andy Griffith episode where Emmett, the fix-it guy, works on Aunt Bee's cuckoo clock. And after fighting with the cuckoo clock and attempting several repairs, he finally calls and tells us it's ready. And when she comes to pick it up, he proceeds to explain to her that when it cuckoos 3 times, it's 2 o'clock, and 4 times, it's 3 o'clock, and he never could get all sequence correctly. But it was kind of comical, but, you know, frankly, there was a lot of skill and a lot of talent and a lot of technical expertise involved in working on watches and clocks. And it was a profession that I think a lot of people didn't really appreciate just how much skill you needed to be able to do that kind of work, particularly on a watch where there are dozens of teeny tiny pieces. Much of the work has to be done under a magnifying glass, and I can just imagine what kind of patience you'd have to do that kind of work and be skilled at it enough to be in demand. And it sounds like Mr. Gardner certainly was. Lee, if we could, let's go to the next picture then. And this is a picture of Mr. Gardner himself. This was taken shortly before he passed away, somewhere around 1981, I think. This is Mr. Gardner there holding his grandson, Jeremy, and his daughter there to the left in the picture. And this was the only picture I've been able to find, and this was actually posted by his grandson, Jeremy, on Facebook, and I was gracious enough to provide this picture to us for tonight's show. And I think, Lee, there's one more that's actually, oh yeah, he had a son who was actually in the Navy and went to Vietnam. And so it says, construction electrician 3rd class, Michael Gardner, son of Mr. and Ms. Cecil B. Gardner of 315 Eastern Avenue, has returned to Rocky Mount, to Port Hueneme, hard to read that, with the U.S. Naval Mobile Construction Battalion. It says the decommissioning is a result of present Vietnamization program underway in South Vietnam. But anyway, this was in December 1969 that his son was in Vietnam. And so anyway, as I said, he died in 1982 of a heart attack, sadly. And Lee, the next picture I think is his obituary. We'll just kind of breeze it out a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I had this. Can you zoom out on that, Lee? This is an ad that appeared in the Griffon newspaper from 1973. As I said earlier, he actually did advertise in the Telegram. He advertised in the High Knocker every year for Rocky Mount Senior High School. There you go. He advertised in the city directory, and I'm sure there were other advertisements as well, but this is one of the few ads I saw where his name was actually spelled correctly. Most of the times it was spelled without the I, but you see here the address here is located corner of Hill and Washington Street. And so I think he closed that shop up somewhere around 73 or 74. I didn't find any ads after this one, in fact. As his daughter alluded to in her message on Facebook, when the Timex watches came out and battery-operated watches came out, demand for watch and clock repair just plummeted. There was just really not much demand, and so he was forced to close his shop up and work basically from his home in kind of a part-time capacity. And as I said, July of 1982, Lee, let's go ahead, if you would, put that last image up here. This is actually his obituary. Oh, I keep forgetting about pictures I included in here. This is just something I found on the Ancestry.com website, and it listed his wife here. She was born 1924 somewhere in Virginia, and so anyway, her name was Doris Lorraine Keene before she married Cecil Gardner. So, okay, Lee. Now the next one should be, if I'm correct, I think the next one, there you go. July 1982, Cecil Beck Gardner, 67, died Thursday. Surviving as a widow is Doris Keene Gardner, his son Michael Lynn Gardner of Euless, Texas. daughters Robin Cummings and Ms. Sabrina Perry, both of Rocky Mount, Ms. Rita Lee of Ohio and his sisters. In any case, and arranged by Gayo's Funeral Home. But he sounded like he was, from all accounts, a very knowledgeable man, very well-liked, well-respected man. And, you know, he was one of many watchmakers and repairmen in Rocky Mount who crafted this trade over the years. But he was probably one of the last, actually. As I said, 1973 was the last ad I saw for him. And I didn't really see many more ads. While I was looking for information about him, I did find other watchmakers and other businesses that offered watch repair and clock repair and so forth, but didn't see any after 1973 or 4. And probably all the others suffered the same fate as Mr. Gardner in that their skills just weren't necessary anymore after these very inexpensive battery-operated watches came along that could, you know, be disposed of and replaced cheaper than they could be repaired, sadly. So anyway, okay, Lee, bring it back to me. We're at a good time to take our first commercial break for the evening. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about another well-known business in Rocky Mount. Many of you remember Rosenblum Levy's downtown Rocky Mount. They were at Tarrytown for a while and also at Golden East Mall for a while. I stumbled across some really neat pictures of the old store downtown Rocky Mount and the original owner of Rosenblum. So anyway, we'll take a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll take a look at some pictures from the old Rosenblum store downtown Rocky Mount. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service, we offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family, and we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. If you're turning 65 or you're currently on Medicare, I can help you make the best decision for the Medicare plan that will suit your needs. Don't wait. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
And we're back. Folks, we're just tuning in. You're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcock. Before the break, we were talking about Mr. Cecil Gardner and his watch repair business in Rocky Mount over the years. You know, I don't recall ever going to his business. I don't remember seeing it, frankly. Oh, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller. You're on the air.
All right. Before you get away, away from this watch repair business and whatever. I'm going to stick another name in your ear.
All righty.
Learned today in 5 city directory. Down there, you've heard me talk before about the little smoke shop on Washington Street called Gup's Smoke Shop.
Right.
Okay, that was right there near the 5 Points and just north of the Moore's Bicycle Shop. Well, the little shop that the man named Selma E. Bullock, that was addressed as 111 South Washington Street, was next door to 109 South Washington Street that belonged to Garland E. Gupton, I think was his middle initial. It was called Gup's Smoke Shop, and the watch shop that was next door to it, the 2 little buildings weren't big enough to cuss a cat in.
Uh-oh. Okay.
It was, and the man that run that place when I was a little boy in the mid-50s, his name was Selma E. Bullock.
Is his first name spelled with a Z? Z-E-L-M-A?
Selma, just like Selma.
Oh, yes.
Final.
Gotcha.
Selma E. Bullock was that man's name that run that little business. And if he and 2 or 3 customers were in that room, nobody else could get in there because it was not big enough.
Okay.
And he had a listing under jewelry and watch repair in the 1955 city directory.
So just let me back up a minute now. So the smoke shop, Gup's Smoke Shop, was owned by Mr. Garland Gupton?
That is correct.
Okay.
And he was in a building that had a pool table in it that wasn't hardly any bigger than a card table. They sold beer and cigars, cigarettes, and us bicycle-age boys used to go in there and buy our weeds when we were newspaper boys. And it was right there, just near, right out the front door of May and Gorham Drug Store.
Okay.
On the south side of that little building, connected to that building, is where that little watch shop was that Selma E. Bullock had.
Okay. So Selma Bullock had the watch shop and Gups had the smoke shop.
That is right. Garland Gupton. And they used to sneer down their noses and look at us when we would go in there to buy cigarettes, Kent cigarettes and Winston's and Salem's, and anything that a newspaper boy wanted to smoke.
Okay.
But
all right.
The world was back in them days.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I've actually, I've seen a couple ads for Gup Smoke Shop. Looking through the Rocky Mountain Telegram, newspapers.com website, I have seen some ads for Gup Smoke Shop. The watch shop, I don't recall seeing, but I wasn't looking for that either. Then again, it's possible I saw it, just didn't recognize it. But I will certainly do some digging, see what I can come up with. And by next week's show, we'll see if we can spread a little information about both of these businesses.
It was listed in the 1955 city directory. I don't think there was a telephone number associated with the watch shop or jewelry repair or whatever it was, but it was under the name Selma E.
Bullock.
Bulluck.
Got it. All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
It was back in the old days.
It was.
Time started being kept electronically about 1953 or 54 by virtue of the transistor.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, time was kept mechanically in watches, pocket watches, and clocks, and that's the way it was. The world changed in about 53 or 54, about the time of Hurricane Hazel. That's the way time started being kept.
Gotcha. Okay. All righty. Appreciate the information.
Yes, sir.
Have a good evening. All righty. Okay. So, all right, I will do that. I will look into Gup Smoke Shop and Mr. Bullock's Watch Shop, and we'll, someone asked me in Facebook about the jewelry store / watch shop down on Falls Road. Mr. Williams ran that place, Williams Watch Shop down there. I actually remember going in that store when I was a small tyke. It was still in business then. But some of these other ones that were down on Washington Street and Main Street, I do not recall personally. So it's always fun to me to go back and look at these businesses that were before my time. We'll leave it at that. Okay, all righty then. So let's jump back in. I mentioned before the break we were talking about Rosenblum leaving. That's always been a name associated with good quality merchandise, kind of in the same realm of Epstein's and Belk, if you will. And so I saw a Facebook post where someone had put together a little pictorial history about Rosenblum, and so these next few pictures I'm going to defer credit to whoever it was, and I'm not sure if it was Gene Herron, he's good for this kind of stuff, but somebody put these pictures on Facebook and I borrowed them for the night show. So without further ado, let's go ahead and leave the very next picture. This is Mr. Jacob Abraham Rosenblum. Not sure when this picture was taken. I'm guessing sometime in the 1920s perhaps. But this little write-up associated was with this picture, I should say. And so I'll read this. It says, for many years, the name Rosenblum Levy was associated with quality clothing. Born in 1889, Jacob Abraham Rosenblum was destined to become a fashion leader in the region. In 1905, Rosenblum moved from Baltimore to Tarboro to work for his cousin Samuel Levy. In 1917, they formed Rosenblum Levy and purchased a clothing store operated by John Blunt on Main Street in Rocky Mount. The store quickly became one of Rocky Mount's leading department stores. Jacob Rosenblum retired in 1950, and J.L. Jake Rosenblum stepped up to manage the family business. As the area's retail landscape began to change, Rosenblum opened a ladies' shop in Tarrytown Mall in 1972, and Rosenblum Levy Mall men's store soon followed in 1975. These stores later relocated to the newer Golden East Crossing, and in 1994, Jake Rosenblum retired after 44 years in the retail clothing business. So, I'd forgotten about all these different stores that Rosenblum had over the years, but this was the man who started it all right here. This is Mr. Jacob Abraham Rosenblum, and as I said, he was born in 1889 and came down here from Baltimore and went to work with his cousin over in Tarboro, and they opened up a store together. So Lee, let's go to the next picture, and this next picture here is actually the store itself down on Main Street, and judging by these cars, I'm going to say early 1950s, and this was kind of a look back when downtown Rocky, this was obviously well before Tarrytown Mall, well before Golden East Mall, and if you wanted to do any shopping in eastern North Carolina, this was where you came to, and Rocky Mount drew shoppers from Roanoke Rapids, certainly Wilson, Tarboro, probably within a 150-mile radius. In fact, there were folks who would come on occasion to shop in Rocky Mount. And so certainly downtown Rocky Mount was thriving during this time period. Stores lined up and down Main Street, and Levy's was certainly one of them. Okay, we got a call. Let's get this call. Hello, caller, you on the air?
All right, I'll talk to you another minute or so about the Rosenblum Levy's stores.
All right, sir.
In 1946, my daddy's sister, Hazel Dawson Sykes, went to work for Jake Rosenblum, not the one that retired in 1950, but the one named Jake that run it for many years.
Mm-hmm.
He worked in Rosenblum's ladies store from 1946 until Jake Rosenblum closed Rosenblum's ladies store in 1994 when it was located, I guess, at Golden East Mall.
Right.
My aunt used to talk about in the years before air conditioning, the steam locomotives running up and down the main line, they had to keep in the warm months of the year all of the windows closed, not closed, but open because of no air conditioning, but all the women's clothes on both floors had to be under glass in cabinets because the soot coming off of the steam locomotives would ruin the clothes. That's the way the world was when the coal burners run up and down the main line.
Oh, yes. Yep, it was a different time for sure.
Different world.
Absolutely. It sure was.
Right.
Okay, buddy. Thank you. All right. Okay. So, like I said, this is where the store was, downtown Rocky Mount in the 1950s. The next picture, Lee, if you would, let's go ahead and bring this next one up. And these are pictures inside the store. This is obviously the men's suit department here. And, you know, there's a smell that you kind of associate it with clothing stores in particular, and men's clothes. I'm not sure whether it's the material, whether it's the thread, whether there's some kind of, I don't know what it is, but I can almost smell that smell just by looking at this picture. And I don't know that I ever owned anything that came from this store, to be honest with you. I do recall going in at a time or two, shopping with my parents, browsing, whatever. But like I said, when I saw this picture, I just immediately had this smell conjured up in my mind. I thought, I know what this place would smell like if I were to go into it. All right, Lee, let's go to the next picture if we could then. And this next one is actually this is obviously the men's hats department. And, you know, you think about it, this used to be a pretty common item for sale in men's clothing stores. And you see the wide variety of hats that were available there, and of course shoes too. But there must be, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about a dozen glass shelves there with different hats, men's hats. And obviously there were different sizes too. But there were a wide variety of styles, the derby hats and so forth. Excuse me. So, you know, these kind of stores up and down Main Street, the Epsteins and the Rosenblums, the Daniels and the Edgers, and all these stores, you know, catered certainly to a more distinguished clientele, and the well-dressed man or woman certainly frequented these stores on a regular basis. Okay, Lee, let's go to the next one then. And this picture, if it's the one up, there you go. I always love these nighttime pictures of downtown Rocky Mount. You see the lighted store windows there. This is obviously after hours. The business itself is closed. But I have some very fond memories as a child of walking down these streets, sidewalks at night, or in the wintertime, particularly when it would get dark very early, and during Christmas season, for example, and we were shopping downtown. And I always loved going to look in these windows. They were always very, very well illuminated, bright lights to show off the merchandise that was on display in the windows. And you could go from store to store to store and just window shop, as the old saying is. And I just have some really fond memories of doing that, particularly when it was dark. Not necessarily after hours always, but after it got dark in the winter. And this picture has kind of brought back those memories of walking down the sidewalks downtown Rocky Mount, looking at some of the store windows, particularly during Christmas time. Okay, Lee, so let's go then to the next one. And this next picture is actually, I mentioned that they moved out to Terrytown, and this caption here says, Rosenblum's now. Jake Rosenblum left, looks over the latest in women's fashions with Mary Mahoney seated left, Jane Rosenblum standing, his wife, and Hazel Sykes. Mahoney manages the ladies' shop at Terrytown, and Sykes manages added attractions. You know, I had the pleasure of meeting Jake Rosenblum many, many years ago. In fact, for a brief period of time, I too had a store at Golden East Mall, and Jake had one, of course, there. And I came to admire and respect the man greatly. He was just a really fine individual, and certainly well-knowledged in the art of retail business, and knew his clothing lines and so forth too. He was a really nice guy, and just a real neat man to get to know. And I always will treasure the memories. We didn't have a lot of detailed conversation. It wasn't like we were close friends or anything, but he would walk the mall sometime and stop in at my shop, and we'd chat for a minute. And if I took a break and walked past his shop, I would stop and we'd chat a minute. So it was kind of just kind of both business owners out at the mall. I always respected him because I knew he had a whole lot more experience than I did. I was hoping some of it would rub off on me. Unfortunately, I didn't ever achieve the success in business he did, but anyway. Okay, let's go then to our next one, and this next picture is actually he and his wife, and I think this is actually from the Golden East Mall store, I believe. Yep. I thought I had a I thought I had a year date on this, but I guess I didn't put it on this picture. 90, probably 94 or thereabouts. This was in retiring. Yeah, 94. He retired after 44 years in a retail clothing business. So this was out there at Golden East Mall. But again, it's a heck of a nice guy. Very well respected, admired businessman in Rocky Mount for many, many years. And well deserved, I might add, too. Okay, Lee. So, you know, this is changing gears a little bit here. February is Black History Month, and Rocky Mount certainly has our share of notable and influential people, African Americans. And doing a little bit of research for tonight's show, I stumbled across a couple names that, one, I was very familiar with, another not so much, and then a third that I'd never heard of at all. And so I thought we'd spend a few minutes tonight and kind of look at some of these people and learn a little bit about them and their impact on not only Rocky Mount, but the nation as a whole. And so we'll take a little bit of time to pay some tributes to three people, all who are from Rocky Mount originally. But I'll tell you what, we'll do that after the break. So let's go ahead and go to our next commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to show you some pictures and talk a little bit about three people from Rocky Mount who really had an impact on this city and this area and were instrumental in helping Rocky Mount grow over the years. So don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back with more Wayback Wednesday.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
Hello, my name is Gus Tullis of Gus Tullis Insurance, and I've been helping people with their insurance needs for well over 20 years. If you're turning 65 or you're currently on Medicare, I can help you make the best decision for the Medicare plan that will suit your needs. Don't wait. Call me today. I'll answer any question you have. 252-937-6913. Looking forward to hearing from you.
When faced with special care needs for elderly or disabled loved ones, families want compassionate, comforting care. That's Tender Touch Home Care Services' goal, providing the level of care we would expect for our own. With over 10 years of home care excellence, Tender Touch provides an array of services that keeps your loved one at home. From personal care, light housekeeping, errands, and meal preparation, to our private duty care program, which combines all of our home care offerings in one package.
Tender Touch Home Care Services, where your needs are our concern.
I'm Daniel Moss, owner of Cornerstone Funeral Home, and I'd like to invite you and your family to give our family an opportunity to serve you in your time of need. And we offer a full line of funeral services, everything from visitations to graveside services to cremations on site with a live crematory, as well as a banquet hall to meet the catering needs of our families that we serve. We offer catering service. We offer refreshments prior to visitations and services of our family. And we want to invite you to come and experience the difference here at Cornerstone Funeral Home.
And we're back, folks. If you're just tuning in, you're watching Wayback Wednesday. I'm Randy Adcox. Glad you could be with us tonight. Before the break, we were talking about, this being Black History Month, and one of the things I want to do throughout the next couple of shows of this month is spend a little bit of time on this show this week and then next week and week after two, and just talk a little bit about the African American people from Rocky Mount who have made a substantial impact on not only Rocky Mount in this part of the state, but on the nation as a whole. In past shows we've talked about some of the more notable names in Rocky Mount, and none more so than Buck Leonard. Buck Leonard was an absolute icon in the sports industry playing baseball, and is often equated with Babe Ruth. And he played with some really great players. He played with Jackie Robinson, for example, and Satchel Paige. Buck Leonard was more than a baseball player, though. And doing a little bit of research for tonight's show, I was a little bit amazed by the effort he put into doing things for the community. I didn't realize that about the man. I knew he was a heck of a ball player, and I knew he had achieved a lot of notoriety, and rightfully so, I might add. He was in a time when African Americans weren't very well treated in sports in general, and I'm sure it was a tough time to be a professional athlete. But he made a name for himself through hard work and dedication to his sport, and then when he retired from baseball, he put a lot of effort into making his community better and indeed the world a better place. I ran across an article that appeared in the Rocky Mount Telegram in 1948, and this talks a little bit about his baseball playing days. And I'll read a little bit of this for you here. Lee, you can put it up on the screen. It may be readable for the viewers. If not, I wanted to read it anyway. But it's picture number 15, and it says, Walter Buck Leonard, Rocky Mount's gift to Negro professional baseball, has again signed a contract to play first base for the Washington Homestead Grays. Leonard, who has enjoyed many seasons of play with the Grays, will leave late in March for Daytona, Florida, where his team will do its spring work. The local player is considered among the top Negro baseball performers, and during his 11 years in the Negro majors, he holds a batting average well over the 300 mark. He has been selected several times by fans throughout the country for the first base position on the East All-Star team, which meets a similar squad from the West each summer in one of the league's major parks. In addition to his experience with the Grays, Leonard also played with teams in South America and Cuba. That was something about Buck Leonard I did not know also, that he had played outside of this country. He played in South America, he played in Mexico, he played in Cuba. And I guess it was, as much as anything else, baseball players, baseball is not a game where you can play year round, at least not here in Rocky Mount anyway. And so like a lot of baseball players, when the opportunity to play baseball in Rocky Mount was no longer here, he found other ways to play, other places to play. And let's go ahead and lead to this next one. This next article appeared in October 1951. And it goes on to say, Buck Leonard, Rocky Mount's contribution to professional baseball, has returned home after spring and summer months playing baseball in the Mexican League. Leonard, for a number of years, was a #1 man on the famous Homestead Grays team, which dominated the Negro Leagues for years. However, the Homestead team folded up 2 years ago, and the local player cast his lot with the team south of the border. So in 1949, the Homestead Grays basically went out of business, if you want to use that phrase. And so Buck Leonard left the United States, I should say, and went to Mexico and joined a Mexican baseball league and played baseball in Mexico. Now, I'm not sure how long he was down there, but again, when the Grays folded up, for a baseball player to keep making money, you go where there's a game to be played. In this case, he found an opportunity to continue playing in Mexico. Now, in 1951, he was nearing the end of his playing days, obviously, and didn't have many more years to play. And this next article, Lee, if you would go ahead and put it up, was from 1953. And this April of 1953, and it says, Walter Buck Leonard, former professional baseball player with the Homestead Grays, who were champions in the Negro National League from 1936 to 1942, has joined the Rocky Mount Cardinals. It was announced today. I mean, I knew Rocky Mount had a baseball team known as the Cardinals. I remember the Pines and the Leafs. The Cardinals, I can't say I ever knew anything about until I was researching for tonight's show. Leonard has played against such stars as Larry Doby, Jackie Robinson, Roy Campanella, Luke Easter. Several were teammates of Leonard from time to time. He also played with Satchel Paige, as I said earlier. He's a native of Rocky Mount, has been playing in Cuba, Mexico, and other Latin American countries since the Grays disbanded. He will play with the Cardinals here until he leaves for Mexico City later this month. The Cardinals will work out each afternoon this week until Saturday. And this appeared April 1953, and at that time the local baseball team was the Rocky Mount Cardinals. And Buck Leonard came back to Rocky Mount to play baseball for the Rocky Mount Cardinals. If you think about that for a minute, he was a man who played with some of the greatest names in baseball. I mean, traveled all over the world playing baseball, and certainly, you know, could have probably gone anywhere else he wanted to, but he came back to Rocky Mount, and having such a big name player come back to Rocky Mount certainly was, you know, was a good thing for baseball in general, but certainly for Rocky Mount also. Lee, I'll tell you what let's do. Let's go to number 18, picture number 18. And this was a long time coming. This picture was taken in 1972. But in 1972, Walter Buck Leonard was finally inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And I'll read a little bit here. It says, Buck Leonard, picture with Commissioner Bowie Kuhn, was inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame in 1972, along with fellow Negro League star Josh Gibson. Leonard and Gibson led the Homestead Grays to 4 consecutive appearances in the Negro World Series, picking up titles in 43 and 44, in addition to 9 consecutive Negro National League pennants from 1937 to 1945. Throughout his playing career, Leonard maintained his home in Rocky Mount. After his retirement from baseball, he became a widely respected public servant, entrepreneur, and businessman, working as a truant officer and a physical education instructor before earning his real estate broker's license. He was instrumental in the return of the minor league Rocky Mount Leafs in 1962, serving as vice president of the team until 1975. Sadly, Leonard passed away in 1997 and is buried in Rocky Mount's Garden of Gethsemane Cemetery. And, you know, like I said, I knew about the sports history to some degree, I should say. I didn't know all of it, but I knew he was a well-known and very accomplished athlete in his own right. But I was not aware of his contributions locally. You know, he was very active in Little League baseball. He just had a lot going on in Rocky Mount, and it's just, you know, it's a testament to what kind of fellow he was, what kind of gentleman he was, and he really done his own hometown proud, put it that way. Okay, that was in 1972, by the way. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and just this year, in 2022, there were some commemorative coins created for the Negro Baseball League. And Lee, the next picture, if you would, put up on the screen for us. And Buck Leonard has his own coin, and you see there on the bus it says Negro Leagues Baseball, and this come out this year, 2022, and he wasn't the only one, but this likeness of Buck Leonard is on this coin, and there are other coins too. And I did a little Google search earlier today to see what these coins are selling for, and the prices all over the board. Some are upwards of $80 to $90 a piece for these coins. I don't know, honestly, whether they are, you know, some coins are created just as, you know, novelties, but have no monetary value. And I think this one does. Don't quote me, I could be wrong, but I think these coins have some kind of value in addition to whatever metal they're made of, I mean. So I'm not sure I don't know if they're 50 cents or a dollar coins or whatever, but I do think there's some monetary value associated with them. But in any case, this just come out this year, 2022, a commemorative coin for Walter Buck Leonard. Well-deserved award there, I guess you'd say. Okay. All right, Lee. I I mentioned a couple other people in Rocky Mount that were instrumental and kind of made a name for themselves, and one of them was a young lady by the name of Arva Marie Johnson. And there she is, there's Arva Marie Johnson. I'd never heard of this lady before today, but she was the first black woman to wear the United States Capitol Police badge. And she's from right here in Rocky Mount. And this article, little short article here, says, meet Arva Marie Johnson. Johnson from South Rocky Mount started working for the United States Capitol Police Department on October 15, 1974. She was recently honored by the United States Capitol Police for her historic achievement. Arva is quoted as saying, go for what you want and do it and pray on it too. We take time to salute Arva Marie Johnson as we celebrate another moment in black history. So I'm guessing this lady still probably lives in the Washington, D.C. area. I've not heard or read anything about her coming back to Rocky Mount. She was obviously born here and from here, but made a career working for the United States Capitol Police. And that's as law enforcement circles goes, it's a pretty prestigious job. There's another fellow from around, well, he's not from Rocky Mount, but he used to work here. I won't call his name because I'm not sure he would want me to list his name on the air, but guy used to work here in Rocky Mount in a totally unrelated field, actually applied for and I managed to acquire a job with the Capitol Police. And after he had been up there for, I don't know, 6 months or so, he actually called me to tell me, he said, you're not going to believe who I just saw. And I said, who'd you just see? He said, Dick Cheney. This is many years ago, obviously now, but anyway, he said a car pulled up to a curve he was standing at, and out pops Dick Cheney, and he was kind of blown away by that. But anyway, Miss Arva Marie Johnson from Rocky Mount, the first black woman to wear the badge of the United States Capitol Police. Okay, Lee, let's go ahead then. We're getting short on time here. We've got a few more pictures to get to. This next one here, this is A.H. Bryant, and this ad appeared. This is actually part of a two-section ads. I've kind of split it up to get it all on the screen. But in April 1953, A.H. Bryant ran for alderman of the 6th Ward. You know, prior to the Rocky Mount City Council being formed, I think in the 60s or maybe 70s, we had aldermen instead of councilmen. And so back in 1953, Mr. A.H. Bryant ran for alderman of the 6th Ward. And so there was an ad that appeared in the paper. And go ahead, Lee, if you would, let's put the next part of this ad up, because this was the bottom. The first picture you just showed was a picture of him. Okay, let's get this call. We got a caller first. Hello, caller, you on the air? Hello, caller.
Hey, I was trying to get a hold of Randy.
Yeah, you got me?
What's that?
You got me? You're on the air?
Hey, Randy, this is Cliff.
Hey, man, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, I'm sitting here with my brother Mike, and we got a couple of stories about Rosenblum, if you want to go with it. But, you know, I mean, Rosenblum leaving.
Well, sure.
Show's going on. But, yeah, so I was sitting there, I was telling Mike, I said, we need to call in. You know, we got a couple of stories. He might like it. He might not. I don't know.
Well, the show ends at 9 o'clock, so talk fast.
Yeah, okay. We'll make it fast. Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Go for it.
No, do we need to turn the computer off, the show off?
Turn your volume down anyway. Yeah, there's a delay that'll make it difficult to understand what you're saying.
Turn it down. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Cliff.
Hey, I just wanted to just make a couple of quick notes. I'm with my brother Mike, and I used to work at the Tarrytown Mall with my friend with Bob Howard Shoes.
There you go.
I have great memories of working there at the mall and Rosenblum Levy's, the men's store. I know one time Bob was going to a shoe show, and here I am, you know, in my teens, and working there at the store, and he wanted me to go with him, and I didn't have anything to wear, and he sent me over to, you know, Rosenblum Levy's. He got me all set up, man, with a nice, you know, jacket and pants and shirt and stuff, and they just worked it out. I can't remember how we did that, but anyway, it was just a great memory. I just remember how professional they were and just the experience. And I'm with my brother Mike. Mike's 11 years older than me, and he was telling me some stories about going to the old store downtown. And I'm going to put him on the phone. So here's Mike.
All right. Hey, Mike.
Make it quick.
Hey, Randy.
Yes, sir.
Back in the day, I would say 65, 66. I was working downtown in First Hardee's restaurant. I don't know if it was the first one in America, but it was pretty close to being down there by the library and all those tobacco warehouses.
Right.
Being that I was a poor working class man, taking distributive education, getting out of school about noon, and by the way, the salary at Hardee's at that particular time was $1 an hour, and you didn't get paid for cleanup. Which at 11 o'clock, you were off the clock, and it usually took about an hour to clean that place up, and you didn't get paid for that. But then $1 an hour didn't go too far working at the at Hardee's, and of course I was very particular, and I wanted to look like all the preppies. So I went to Jake Rosenblum's store so I could buy the matching alligator belt and wallet and the wingtip shoes with the tassels and all that other stuff. So
you spent 2 weeks' paycheck, didn't you?
I remember downtown Rocky Mount. And there was also a jewelry store that I went to, and I was into folk music and that kind of stuff at the time. And I couldn't play a guitar except one way, left-handed. And just out of curiosity, they had one guitar in that store that was left-handed, and it was acoustic. And so it cost, and this was $200.
We got to go, folks. Thanks for watching the show. I'll keep talking with Mike. Go ahead, Mike. I'm listening to you, buddy.
So I had
have a good week, folks. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And we'll see you next week. More Wayback Wednesday. Good night.
Until I got it paid.
This is Nicholas Bellamy at Premier Equipment. I'm going to talk about the 4540 Mahindra. It's 38 horsepower, 4-cylinder engine. The weight of this tractor is 4,000 pounds. This tractor is perfect for bush hogging, distance, small garden, a hunting club tractor. Comes with a 7-year warranty, 2-year bumper to bumper, additional 5-year on the powertrain. You can have this tractor for $200 a month, and we have 20 of these tractors in stock. Premier Equipment is open during the week from 8 to 5:30 and on the weekends from 8 to 12.